May 1933. All over Germany, Nazi students, brown shirts and Hitler youth gather and burn books by the thousand. Works of literature, philosophy and science, believed un-German, are consigned to the flames. Adolf Hitler has declared war on reason itself. People set us down as enemies of intelligence, proclaims Hitler. We are, but in a much deeper sense than those conceited dolts of bourgeois scientists ever dream of. Hitler's revolt against the intellect is to be enshrined in a new religion, a religion devoted to the mysteries of blood and race. The old beliefs will be brought back to honor again, Hitler declares. The whole secret knowledge of nature, of the divine, of the shapeless, the daemonic. We will wash off the Christian veneer and bring out a religion peculiar to our race. The religion of blood of which Hitler speaks will pave the way to the murder of millions. Yet, the Nazi creed of race is not of Hitler's own creation. Its roots lie in the teachings of Germanic mystics and the doctrines of the occult. In the Germany of the 1890s, there is an overwhelming sense of promise unfulfilled. With the birth of the Second German Reich in 1871 and the crowning of Kaiser Wilhelm I, Germany's future had seemed assured. Yet the romantic hope for a nation of stability and order had failed to materialize. Behind the medieval ceremony of the Kaiser's court, there is the deep trauma of an industrial revolution. Peasants abandon the land in their millions, flocking to the cities. Artisans and craftsmen find their livelihoods swept aside by the onslaught of mass production. A new class of financiers and industrialists vies for power with the ancient aristocracy. Already, the new German Reich seems destined for chaos and division. Ironically, the unity of purpose craved by so many Germans of the Kaiser's Reich will be provided by the teachings of an Englishman. In 1897, Kaiser Wilhelm II summons to his court the renowned English writer Houston Stewart Chamberlain. Chamberlain's book, The Foundations of the 19th Century, will be the inspiration for a generation of German nationalists, anti-Semites, mystics, and the future National Socialist Party. According to Chamberlain, the key to human history lies in the rise and fall of races. Chamberlain idolizes the Teutonic race as the creator of culture and of all true civilization. The German mind, writes Chamberlain, must guide the Aryan peoples to racial supremacy and world domination. Kaiser Wilhelm will later write to Chamberlain, "It was God who sent your book to the German people, and you personally to me." Chamberlain preaches that an affinity with the mystical is rooted deep in the Aryan character. And he writes, "Every mystic is, whether he will it or not, a born anti-Semite." In the Prussia of the late 19th century, Jews remained excluded from the Army Officer Corps, from the judiciary, and from the higher ranks of the civil service. Throughout Europe, such measures had been defended for centuries by questioning the moral qualities and the political loyalties of non-Christians. The writings of Chamberlain will add to European anti-Semitism a new and sinister dimension. Jews will be seen not as a religious community, but as an alien and enemy race. In Chamberlain's racial doctrines, the aim of the Jewish people is to corrupt the blood of the Aryans by racial mixing. The result, he warns, will be physical and moral degeneration and the end of the dream of Aryan world power. The only course is to purge Germany of Jews and all racial aliens. The key to the German mission, Chamberlain believes, is the creation of a truly Teutonic religion, a religion founded on the sacred mystery of Aryan blood. As Chamberlain's racial doctrines spread throughout Germany, in Austria, a blood religion is already taking shape. By the beginning of the 20th century, the ethnic Germans of Austria have come to see themselves as a people under siege. Once the rulers and administrators of the great Austro-Hungarian Empire, Austrian Germans are now a minority in a state dominated by Slavic peoples. Civil servants are required to speak Czech as well as German. Czech priests have been allocated large numbers of German parishes. German language and culture seem in mortal danger. In the eyes of many Austrian Germans, the Catholic Church appears utterly committed to supporting Slavic interests. The result is widespread hatred for a religion which appears both hostile and treacherous. The profound insecurity of the German people of Austria leads to the growth of a powerful pan-German movement. Its aim is the unification of all Germans in a single fatherland. Amongst the ranks of the new movement are many who, disillusioned with Christianity, believe that the Germans must return to the religion of their ancestors, the worship of the Nordic gods and the primal laws of nature. The doctrine that blood purity will usher in a golden age of German supremacy will find its most powerful expression in the teachings of the renegade Cistercian monk Jorg Lanz. Lanz, Grand Master of the occultist order of the New Templars, preaches a strange doctrine, a doctrine he names theozology. In the distant past, the Atlanteans, the fourth root race of creation, had split into pure and bestial species. After many thousands of years, the pure race, the Aryan godmen of the fifth root race, had interbred with the beasts. The result was catastrophic decline and the near loss of the Aryan psychic powers. Lanz believes that the ancient Germanic tribes had, by imposing strict race laws, purified their blood, retrieving traces of the Aryans' divine nature. Those laws, Lanz teaches, had been destroyed by Christianity and must be revived. The result, over many generations, would be the breeding of a superior type of human, a God-man, destined to rule the world. Cosmopolitan Vienna, with its diverse mixture of peoples and cultures, appalls Jorg Lanz. To him, the chaos of the modern world represents a final battle. A battle between the blonde races with their strong traces of Aryan blood and the subhumans, the races whose blood is dominated by that of the beasts. From 1905, Lanz's prescription for racial salvation he publicizes in his own immensely popular journal Ostara. The Germanic ruling classes, Lanz proposes, the racially purest of all Germans, are to be encouraged to reproduce. Polygamy and a selective human breeding program would serve to reclaim blood purity. As for the lower classes, their poverty indicates racial inferiority, and they must be enslaved or sterilized. Marriages between Germans and inferior races would be illegal and punished by a starvation diet. Jews, the Aryans' deadliest enemies, would be used as beasts of burden, deported to Madagascar, or incinerated. From modest premises in Vienna, Jorg Lanz's Ostara is distributed throughout the German-speaking world. In 1909, Lanz is visited by a 20-year-old poverty-stricken painter. Adolf Hitler is in search of back copies. He is anxious to complete his Ostara collection. When Hitler moves to new lodgings, a men's hostel at 27 Meldemannstrasse, he takes his collection of over 50 copies of Ostara with him. Like many of his fellow German Austrians, Hitler had seen the Jews as an alien religion. Now he has learned from the teachings of Jorg Lanz that German and Jew are races at war. Hitler would later write, "I found the racial conglomeration of the imperial capital disgusting. The city seemed the very embodiment of racial infamy." In May 1913, Hitler leaves Vienna for a new life in the German fatherland. The Bavarian city of Munich, in which the 24-year-old Adolf Hitler ekes out a precarious living, seethes with nationalist passion and anti-Semitic agitation. Here, as in Vienna, secret societies and occultist circles proliferate, fueled by the uncertainties of the modern world. To their educated and aristocratic members, the teachings of Jorg Lanz and the German occultists are infinitely reassuring. The forces of democracy and capitalism, hated agents of change, are cast as the sinister inventions of inferior races, above all, of the Jews. There is a widespread longing for war, a war which would herald the return of unity, of hierarchy, and of empire. Jorg Lanz has prophesied, amid the jubilation of the liberated God-men, we would conquer the whole planet. The fire should be raked until sparks fly from the barrels of German battleships and order is created. On August the 1st, 1914, in Munich's Odeonplatz, the war eagerly awaited by German nationalists is proclaimed to a jubilant crowd. Amongst the cheering throng is Adolf Hitler. 3 days after the declaration of war, Hitler requests to be allowed to join a Bavarian regiment. For me, Hitler will declare, as for every German, there now began the greatest and most unforgettable time of my earthly existence. After 8 weeks of training, Hitler is sent to the front with the 16th Bavarian Infantry Reserve Regiment. His first battle is at Ypres. On Hitler's first day in action, his performance leads to his appointment as a regimental runner, a member of the select band of frontline messengers. The following day, Hitler rescues his deputy commanding officer under fire. The exploit earns him promotion to Lance Corporal and the Iron Cross Second Class. In the 45 months that Hitler's regiment will spend in the front lines and in 36 major battles, Hitler will earn a reputation for immense personal courage. Senior officers are lavish in their praise. One calls him an exceptionally brave, effective and conscientious soldier. To Hitler's comrades, the dedicated runner they call the Austrian seems aloof and remote. Only when speaking of the new era to come does Hitler reveal a burning passion. After the war, he is convinced Austrian Germans will be reunited with the fatherland, and the new Greater Germany will purge itself of foreign racial elements and the democracy they strive to create. To his comrades, Hitler's arguments are persuasive. Almost no one, a fellow soldier would recall, could withdraw himself from Adolf Hitler's strong personality, and his opinions were accepted by most of us. In the summer of 1918, Hitler is awarded the Iron Cross First Class for his outstanding combat performance in almost 4 years at the front. It is a decoration seldom awarded to a soldier of such lowly rank. On October the 13th at Ypres, only 4 miles from where he'd seen his first action in 1914, Hitler is caught in a gas attack. Almost blind, he is taken to a military hospital in Germany. While Adolf Hitler slowly recovers from his wounds, events in the outside world move with dizzying speed. A massive Allied offensive threatens to break through German lines. On the home front, Berlin has been paralyzed by strikers demanding peace and democracy. The Kaiser is advised that in the interests of the fatherland, he should sue for peace and concede democratic government. On November the 9th, with Berlin in the grip of a general strike, the Kaiser abdicates. The Second German Reich has come to an abrupt and traumatic end. As Germany plunges into anarchy, Adolf Hitler, still a serving soldier, returns to duty. First to his regiment in Munich, then as a guard at a prisoner of war camp 60 miles from the city. While his prisoners await repatriation, Hitler broods on the treachery of the armistice. To him, as to many of his comrades, the German army and people have been stabbed in the back by Democrats, Marxists, and above all, by Jews. The hatred grew in me, Hitler writes. Hatred for those responsible for this deed. My own fate became known to me. I decided to go into politics. Between March 1919, when Hitler returns to his unit in Munich, and March 1920, when he is finally discharged from the army, both Hitler and Bavaria will have been transformed. While Bavaria becomes first a Soviet republic, then a haven for nationalist counter-revolutionaries, Adolf Hitler becomes an army spy, joins the insignificant German Workers' Party, and discovers his gift for oratory. While still in the pay of the Bavarian army, Hitler becomes the party's chief of propaganda. Hitler's constant theme is the removal of Jews from German life. From Jorg Lanz, Hitler had learned that the aim of the Jewish race is to sabotage the Aryan world mission. It is a doctrine already familiar to many members of the German Workers' Party. The party itself had been conceived by the Thule Society, the Munich lodge of the occultist German order. The symbol of the Thule Society is the swastika. The party, renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, has yet to develop a fully fledged ideology. The molding of Hitler's racial beliefs into a coherent and all-embracing worldview will result from his close friendship with three men: Alfred Rosenberg, disciple of Houston Stewart Chamberlain; Dietrich Eckart, intimate associate of the Thule Society; and Rudolf Hess, future Deputy Führer of the Nazi Party. All are convinced mystics. Alfred Rosenberg, a Baltic German, had discovered Chamberlain's Foundations of the 19th Century when he was only 17 years old. Personal experience of the Russian Revolution and the ensuing civil war seems to Rosenberg to confirm Chamberlain's racial doctrines. The ruling aristocracy of Russia, whom Rosenberg believes to be of Aryan stock, had been displaced by the inferior Slavic masses, roused and led by Jews. To Rosenberg, Bolshevism in Russia and the new democracy in Germany are part of the same worldwide Jewish conspiracy. His inspiration is a mysterious work known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. First brought to Germany by waves of Russian emigres fleeing the revolution, the Protocols purports to be a secret Jewish blueprint for world domination. In reality, it is a 19th century forgery perpetrated by the secret police of the Russian Tsar. In Munich, Alfred Rosenberg seeks out the well-known anti-Semitic journalist, publisher and poet Dietrich Eckart. It is Eckart who introduces Rosenberg to Adolf Hitler. Between 1920 and 1923, Eckhart and Rosenberg will labor tirelessly in the service of Hitler and the party. Through Rosenberg, Hitler learns of the protocols and the works of Houston Stewart Chamberlain. Rosenberg speaks at the Thule Society meetings and edits the Völkischer Beobachter, the party newspaper originally owned by Thule. In the pages of the Beobachter, Rosenberg will publish the serialized text of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It is to raise funds for the party newspaper that Dietrich Eckart introduces Hitler to the influential circles that will increasingly support the fledgling Nazi party. It is while staying in the Berlin house of a wealthy manufacturer that Hitler is given instruction in public speaking by a well-known teacher of drama. Dietrich Eckart had introduced Hitler to his powerful friends as Germany's young messiah. Eckart will also lead to Hitler, the first of his followers to believe that description to be the literal truth. Rudolf Hess is, like Hitler himself, a disillusioned and embittered war hero. In May 1920, Hess had been taken by Eckart to his first Nazi party meeting and his first encounter with Adolf Hitler. In Hitler, Hess had, he believed, found the savior long prophesied in German occultist circles. The Stark von Oben, the strong one from above. The man who would lead the Germanic peoples to the dawn of an Aryan millennium. By 1923, much of Hitler's racial ideology has taken shape. The prejudices of his youth have been forged into a doctrine steeped in Aryan mysticism. His faith in his Germanic mission is deepening. Now, after attending a nationalist rally near Bayreuth, Hitler makes a personal pilgrimage. At Bayreuth is the house in which Richard Wagner, Hitler's boyhood idol, had spent the last years of his life. The house, still the Wagner family home, had become a virtual shrine. As a young man, Hitler had worshipped Wagner as the supreme prophet of the German people. In Wagner's operas and in his anti-Semitic writings, Hitler now sees the highest confirmation of his own innermost convictions. In common with the Germanic mystics, Wagner had believed the Jews to be incapable of true spirituality. While the rest of humanity had descended from higher beings, the Jews were descendants of the apes. In Wagner's mystical drama Parsifal, based on medieval tales of the Knights of the Holy Grail, Parsifal is an Aryan Christ. Wagner had himself described the Grail as a symbol of blood purity, a warning to the German people against racial pollution. After a tour of the Wagner home, Hitler asks permission to visit the composer's tomb alone. He returns in a state of great emotion to declare, "Out of Parsifal I make a religion." Wagner's daughter Eva had married the English mystic Houston Stewart Chamberlain. Chamberlain tells Hitler, "With one stroke you have changed the state of my soul." That Germany gives birth to a Hitler in the time of her greatest need is proof of her vitality. In a little over a month after his visit to Bayreuth, Hitler launches his first bid for national power. The attempted coup of November the 9th, 1923, in which Hitler's brown shirts, along with other nationalist paramilitary groups, attempt to take control of the Bavarian government, is a disastrous failure. Yet, Hitler's arrest, his trial and his subsequent imprisonment will make of the obscure Austrian agitator a household name and a political martyr. It is in the prison fortress of Landsberg that Hitler's beliefs, founded in a mystical faith in the destiny of the German race, take on a new and scientific character. Hitler's fellow prisoner Rudolf Hess had been for a time a student of economics at the University of Munich. There he'd been strongly influenced by the teachings of the ex-general and geopolitician Karl Haushofer. By detailed study of populations and natural resources, the new science of geopolitics attempts to explain the political history of nations. Haushofer had taught that Germany's needs would best be satisfied not by the capture of overseas colonies, but by expansion on the European continent itself. To Haushofer, Germany's national destiny lies to the east. The doctrine of Lebensraum, the German right to living space, will become a cornerstone of National Socialist ideology. It will be a doctrine surpassed in importance only by the creed of race. While Hitler languishes in Landsberg, he learns of the international scientific movement known as eugenics. The concern of eugenics is that the human race faces imminent degeneration and decline. Inspired by Darwin's theory of evolution, eugenicists believe that not only diseases such as tuberculosis and epilepsy are passed from generation to generation, but also mental and moral strengths and weaknesses. Many are also convinced that interbreeding between the races produces degenerate offspring. Because more children are produced by the lower classes than by their social superiors, many eminent scientists and physicians fear a future racial disaster. To avoid calamity, they argue that valuable individuals should be encouraged to breed, while those of inferior stock must be sterilized in the interest of the greater good. From England, its country of origin, eugenics had spread to Germany, becoming known as racial hygiene. In 1923, Fritz Lenz had been appointed Germany's first professor of racial hygiene at the University of Munich. Lenz is the co-author of an influential textbook, The Outline of Human Genetics and Racial Hygiene, a book closely studied by the imprisoned Adolf Hitler. In it he finds the scientific counterpart of the occultist mystical quest for racial aristocracy. Fritz Lenz argues that between races and between individuals there is a clear hierarchy. While some are destined only to be slaves, others are born to rule. Having served 9 months of his 5-year sentence, Hitler is released from Landsberg in December 1924. His imprisonment had been, in his own words, a university at the expense of the state. In Landsberg, the strands of Hitler's ideology had been woven into his personal political testament, Mein Kampf. In Mein Kampf, Hitler describes the purpose of the state which the party will construct. A state, he writes, is only a means to an end, and its end it sees as the preservation of the racial existence of men. It feels the obligation, in accordance with the eternal will that dominates this universe, to promote the victory of the better and stronger, and to demand the submission of the worse and weaker. All science, all art, even human reason itself must, Hitler believes, serve the will of nature. And nature, he insists, is fundamentally aristocratic. Having learned from the failure of the Nazi coup in 1923, Hitler commits the Nazi Party to the pursuit of power by democratic means. Meanwhile, he constructs a shadow state. It is to be founded on the strictly hierarchical principles, long advocated by German mystics, and now supported by the ideas of racial hygiene. In every sphere of life, there is to be a leader, a Führer, with absolute power to govern his subordinates. Each Führer owes unquestioning obedience to his own leader. At the summit of the Nazi hierarchy is Adolf Hitler, the supreme Führer, the authority from which all power flows. In the mystical ideology of National Socialism, the Führer has been chosen by the very laws of nature. He is the highest expression of the soul of the West. To Hitler, the task of the supreme leader, his only mission, is to unlock the emotions of the German masses, to bring to the surface their latent faith in race and blood.
Denn als unsere Partei gerade 7 Mann hoch war, sprach sie schon 2 Grundsätze aus. Erstens, sie wollte eine wahrhaftige Weltanschauungspartei sein. Und zweitens, sie wollte daher kompromisslos die einzige Macht und alleinige Macht in Deutschland. Und weil dieser beste Rassenwert der deutschen Nation in einer stolzen Selbsteinschätzung mutig und kühn die Führung des Reiches und Volkes forderte, der sich als Träger seines besten Blutes fühlen und dieses wissend zur Führung der Nation erhoben hat und entschlossen ist, diese Führung zu behalten, wahrzunehmen und nicht erst abzugeben. Die Partei wird für alle Zukunft die politische Führungsauslese des deutschen Volkes sein. Sie wird in ihrer Lehre unveränderlich, in ihrer Organisation stahlhart, in ihrer Taktik schmiegsam und anpassungsfähig, in Gesamtbild aber wie ein Orden sein. Es ist unser Wunsch und Wille, dass dieser Staat und dieses Reich bestehen sollen in den kommenden Jahrtausenden. Wir können glücklich sein zu wissen, dass diese Zukunft restlos uns gehört. Es lebe die nationalsozialistische Bewegung! Es lebe Deutschland! Die Partei ist Hitler. Hitler aber ist Deutschland, wie Deutschland Hitler ist. Hitler siegt! Siegt!
The triumph of Adolf Hitler is to many physicians and scientists of the racial hygiene movement a triumph for science. The Eugenics Journal, edited by the racial hygienist Fritz Lenz, celebrates what it calls a new age of racial biological revolution. Lenz writes, "It is the will of the Führer that the demands of racial hygiene should be put into practice without delay. It is the beginning of a road that will lead to mass sterilization, murder, and genocide." On July the 14th, 1933, the Nazi government passes the law for the prevention of genetically diseased offspring. The law allows compulsory sterilization of those suffering from a wide range of physical and mental illnesses believed hereditary. Genetic health courts set up to administer the law will order the sterilization of almost 400,000 people. The most common grounds will be feeble-mindedness, schizophrenia, epilepsy and alcoholism. With the cooperation of the German medical profession, the German people are to be purged of all hereditary weakness. The Nazi eugenics program has yet to concern itself with the quest for racial purity, but already the groundwork has been laid. In March 1933, the SA and the SS had enforced a boycott of Jewish businesses. In April, all Jews are barred by law from posts in the German civil service and judiciary. A measure preventing Jews from teaching in universities soon follows. The intention is to exclude Jews from German cultural and economic life. In September 1935, the eugenics program is extended to biologically isolate the Jewish people. From the Germanic mystics, Hitler has absorbed a distinctive and terrifying theory of the nature of the Jews. The Jew, he states, is the anti-man, the creature of another god. He must come from another root of the human race. The law for the protection of German blood and German honor forbids marriage between those classed as Aryans and those deemed to be Jews. It is a measure demanded since the turn of the century by Germanic occultists. The definition of who and who is not a Jew has been provided by the scientists of the racial hygiene movement. By late 1935, the key elements of the Nazi eugenics program are in place. The sterilization campaign is underway. The race laws protecting German blood from racial pollution are being vigorously enforced. Even marriages between those classed as Aryans are now subject to strict controls, with both partners being investigated for hereditary diseases. Plans for the next stage in Hitler's campaign to improve the German racial stock are already being prepared. Hitler had announced to a Nazi party rally, if Germany was to get 1 million children a year and was to remove 700,000 to 800,000 of the weakest people, the final result might even be an increase in strength. At Nuremberg in 1935, Hitler, speaking to the Reich medical Führer Gerhard Wagner, informs him that in the event of war, he would take up the question of euthanasia and enforce it. In wartime, Hitler believes opposition from the Christian churches could be more easily contained. In reality, by early 1939, the National Socialist state is so secure that no further delay is necessary. In May, Hitler asks his personal physician, Karl Brandt, to appoint an advisory committee to devise a program for the killing of disabled children. To guarantee the maximum secrecy, Hitler's private chancellery is to administer the program. Attempts have already been made to ensure that the German people will in time accept Nazi eugenic measures. In school mathematics tests, children are asked to calculate the cost of the mentally ill and handicapped. One states, the construction of an insane asylum requires 6 million Reichsmarks. How many housing units can be built for the amount spent on insane asylums? On August the 18th, Hitler's chancellery issues a circular to all state governments. Children up to the age of 3 who are retarded or deformed must be registered by midwives or physicians, and a questionnaire completed describing their disability. 3 physicians assess the returned forms, marking with a plus if the child is to die and a minus if it is to live. No children are actually examined by the physicians. At over 30 special clinics, the selected children are killed by lethal injection, by oral drugs, or by starvation. The deaths are explained as resulting from natural causes. Within 2 years, the child-killing program will include children up to the age of 12. Man is becoming God, pronounces Adolf Hitler. Those who see in National Socialism nothing more than a political movement know scarcely anything of it. It is more even than a religion. It is the will to create mankind anew. While the German medical establishment wholeheartedly commits itself to purging German racial stock of inferior strains, the task of breeding for strength is already underway. Each member of the SS is carefully selected for his physical perfection and the purity of his blood. Bound by solemn oaths and mystic rituals, SS men may marry only those of proven Germanic ancestry, ensuring that over generations the SS becomes a reservoir of the purest Aryan blood. The SS clan is a racial aristocracy in the making, a clan whose mission is to rule the East. In September 1939, Hitler unleashes his armies on Poland. 7 years earlier, he had made his objectives clear. Our great experimental field is the East. There, a new European social order will arise. The Polish peasants are to be dispossessed. In their place are to be installed purebred Germans, selected and in time ruled by the SS. Poles from areas annexed by Germany are concentrated in a reservation known as the Government General. Polish children deemed to have Aryan blood are kidnapped and taken to Germany as racially valuable stock. The Jews of the occupied territories are concentrated in city ghettos inside the Government General. The SS Einsatzgruppen special action groups have orders to murder the most educated and influential sectors of the Polish population. They have also been instructed to open the next phase in the Nazi euthanasia program, the killing of those judged unfit for either breeding or labor. In Poland and in regions of Germany near the Polish border, thousands of inmates of psychiatric hospitals are taken and shot. Hitler's chancellery, guided by its team of medical advisors, has carefully considered the question of how many are to be killed in the German euthanasia campaign. It had been concluded that of every 1,000 people in the German population, 10 are mentally ill. 5 will enter a psychiatric hospital. Of these 5, 1 must die. The number to be killed is calculated by the committee as between 65 and 75,000 people. The method is to be gassing in purpose-built chambers, a procedure suggested by the forensic department of the civil police. The Chancellery unit responsible for the euthanasia program is based at number 4 Tiergartenstrasse. After its address, the unit will become known as T4. During the German conquest of Western Europe in the summer of 1940, rumors of mysterious deaths in German psychiatric hospitals grow amongst the German public. Increasingly, elderly men and women refuse to enter retirement homes, fearing for their lives. And the T4 program is widening. The residents of TB hospitals and workhouses will soon be included along with the mentally ill prisoners. In early 1941, the Reich Interior Ministry orders that all Jewish patients in German psychiatric hospitals be killed. The murders will be T4's first contribution to Hitler's coming campaign of racial annihilation. The campaign soon to be known as the Final Solution. In 1934, Hitler had described the crusade which he would launch against the Slavic peoples of the Soviet Union. We cannot in any way evade the final battle between German race ideals and Slav mass ideals. We shall take this struggle upon us. It will open the door to permanent mastery of the world. The name chosen for the invasion of Russia is Operation Barbarossa. In medieval legends, revived by the Germanic occultists, the Emperor Barbarossa, who lies sleeping beneath a mountain, would one day awake, unleashing German power in a fury of conquest. For the Slavic peoples of Russia, Adolf Hitler plans a nightmare world of mass slavery and the harshest of eugenic measures. Hitler had insisted, "We are obliged to depopulate as part of our mission of preserving the German people. We shall have to develop a technique for depopulation." Preparing for a future in which tens of millions of Slavs are to be sterilized, German physicians will attempt to develop X-ray and surgical techniques for a mass eugenics program in the East. For Soviet Jews, however, Hitler will countenance nothing short of extinction. The war in Russia is to provide the cover for race murder on an unimaginable scale. On October the 10th, 1941, Field Marshal von Reichenau tells the army divisions under his command, "In the Eastern Sphere, the soldier is not simply a fighter according to the rules of war, but the supporter of a ruthless racial ideology. For this reason, soldiers must show full understanding of the necessity for the severe but just atonement required of the Jewish subhumans." Assigned to each army group is an SS Einsatzgruppe Special Action Unit. The Einsatzgruppen are responsible only to Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer of the SS. At the outset of Operation Barbarossa, Himmler had confided, "The Führer has ordered the final solution of the Jewish question, and we, the SS, must carry out this order." Himmler's reasoning is the terrifying blend of mysticism and science, now the hallmark of Nazi ideology. The Jews are the eternal enemies of the German race, and they must be exterminated. If we now fail to destroy the biological basis of Jewry, then one day the Jews will destroy the German people. The murder method adopted for the final solution in the East is mass shooting. By the autumn of 1941, Jews from Germany, Austria and Czechoslovakia are being deported to the killing grounds of the Soviet Union. The sheer scale of the murder campaign in the East and Himmler's personal distaste for mass shootings prompts him to order a search for an alternative killing method. In the German psychiatric hospitals and the T4 program, such a method has already been devised. By August 1941, T4 has achieved the number of killings its committee of physicians had calculated to be necessary. Over 90,000 psychiatric patients have been murdered in German hospitals, 71,000 in hospital gas chambers. Public outrage in Germany is finally making itself felt. On August the 3rd, the program is openly denounced by the Bishop of Munster, Graf Galen. 3 weeks later, Hitler orders a halt. The T4 unit is not disbanded. Now it diverts its attention to killing those inmates of German concentration camps who are too sick to work, or who are Jews, Gypsies, or other racial enemies. In SS jargon, they are to receive special treatment. Prisoners to die are selected by roving T4 commissions. Until purpose-built facilities for mass killings are available in the camps, T4 arranges that the condemned be sent to the gas chambers of German psychiatric hospitals. Soon, the new alliance between T4 and the SS will provide Adolf Hitler with a new weapon for his war of racial extermination. Together, the SS and T4 will develop the purpose-built death camp. In the summer of 1941, Heinrich Himmler orders the enlargement of Auschwitz concentration camp by the addition of a killing center. The gassing method will be tested on 600 Russian prisoners of war and 200 hospital patients. In October, Alfred Rosenberg, now Reichsführer for the occupied Eastern Territories, invites T4 to assist in the liquidation of the Jews confined to the Polish ghettos. He requests assistance in constructing in the East what he calls the necessary buildings and gassing apparatus. The channel of communication between Rosenberg and the SS is the office of Adolf Eichmann. It is Eichmann to whom Himmler entrusts the details of murdering an entire race. Eichmann's superior, Reinhard Heydrich, is to coordinate the operation. The decision to construct centers in the Eastern Territories for mass killings by gas is taken in October 1941. That same month, all Jewish emigration from Germany to foreign countries is banned. Instead, in the words of Reinhard Heydrich, Europe is to be combed from east to west for Jews. The first death camp will be completed at Chelmno in December 1941. Labor camps at Auschwitz, Majdanek, and Treblinka are converted to killing centers. Gas chambers from German psychiatric hospitals will be dismantled and reassembled at Belzec, Treblinka, and Sobibor. With them will come their T4 personnel. All will continue to have their salaries paid by Hitler's private chancellery. Since the turn of the century, the scientific dogmas of eugenics and the Aryan fantasies of Germanic occultists had been slowly fused into a single doctrine of racial supremacy and annihilation. Now in the death camps, the techniques devised by German physicians are to be used to destroy a racial enemy identified by mystics. In 1933, Hitler had presented his followers with the starkest of choices. For our people, it is decisive whether they acknowledge the Jewish Christ creed with its effeminate pity ethics, or a strong, heroic belief in God in nature, God in our own people, in our destiny, in our blood. By choosing the race creed of the blood, Adolf Hitler and his disciples will make of Europe and the Soviet Union a single vast realm of suffering, of horror, and of death.